first day, I decided to change it up a little bit with the hat today. I have a whole bunch of these hats because they remind me of what my grandfather wore, which is what I always call it a chapeau, but he always wore like these caps. I'm sure many of you have older friends and family that did the same thing. And so a couple years ago, I actually got really into collecting caps like this. They were kind of like in style at the time, and now I never wear them. So I thought I'd bring it back. A throwback, if you will. Guys, welcome to the show. We've got so much to cover today. It is like, does anyone feel like, isn't this the most perfect ramp up to the anniversary of the great insurrection that is January 6th? Who's ready to celebrate January 6th on a Friday? I know I'm ready to celebrate January 6th on a Friday. And as a special surprise, as part of the January 6th second anniversary celebration, I have a midnight movie tonight. Now, those of you who were around back in the day, you know that I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I didn't go in the building. I did get interviewed by the FBI, which was a fun experience that I never thought I'd have in my life. That did happen, but I wasn't arrested. I didn't go in the building. I didn't do anything wrong. I am innocent. I was just there peacefully. I wasn't even there protesting. I just wanted to see what happened. But anyway, when I got back to my hotel room the night of January 6th, I did what any sensible person would do, and I popped on a live stream and I talked about what happened. And what we're going to do tonight is we're actually going to relive that live stream. I just basically am replaying the live stream as I did it the night of January 6th before I had watched the news, before I really knew what was going on. These are just my impressions of the day from someone who was there and witnessed what happened firsthand. And of course, I mean, there are many different angles you can view the events of January 6th from. But this is going to be mine, and I'm going to replay it at midnight tonight as the great kickoff for the 2-year anniversary. And as Bot says, I was definitely not high at the Capitol on January 6th. That absolutely did not happen. But I don't know why you're spreading these vicious rumors. I definitely was not high when I was at the Capitol. It brought a whole new life to it, not being high at the Capitol, let me tell you what. So we're gonna be doing that at midnight. Now, if you don't want to stay up until midnight, that's totally fine. The reason I've been playing around with this midnight movie stuff is that, quite frankly, I do stay up until midnight. I work best at night. I do a lot of writing at night. Night is like quiet time. And so it makes perfect sense for me to premiere this at midnight, but it will be around tomorrow if you want to get some sleep and like a normal person does. But that's what we're going to be doing tonight, guys. Come back to the channel around midnight tonight. And I'm actually really curious because I haven't watched this stream since I did it. So I'm curious about what I said, how much I got right, how much my perception has changed. So I will be in the live chat tonight, and I'll be commenting on that as well. And I hope to see some of you there. But guys, we have so much to cover tonight because, as you know, they've just started another round of voting. Kevin McCarthy is just getting his ass kicked repeatedly. And come on, man, mount that like button for me if you just think that it is glorious to watch Kevin McCarthy get the ass kicking that he so rightfully deserves. This is like we're basically watching Kevin McCarthy get kicked in the nuts over and over and over and over and over again. And he just keeps coming back for more. And they keep trying to go into these negotiations, and then the negotiations keep falling through. Like, we woke up this morning and they were like, yeah, we made all these great concessions to the insurrectionists, and Brian Kilmeade on Fox News is actually calling them insurrectionists. Can you believe this? One of the things that is so amazing about what is going on right now in Washington, D.C. is that it is exposing all of the cowards. Every single one of them. Brian Kilmeade, coward. Fuck Brian Kilmeade. Never trust Brian Kilmeade again if you ever did. Sean Hannity, we're going to talk about Sean Hannity in a sec, but man, Lauren Boebert last night handed it to Sean Hannity. It was glorious. We're going to watch a clip of it. Sean Hannity, coward. Rhino. Never trust Sean Hannity again. You never should have trusted Sean Hannity in the first place because, quite frankly, Sean Hannity goes on his show wearing a CIA and an FBI pin, and I don't know why anyone's trusting anyone in the Republican Party that's going on national television repeatedly wearing a CIA and an FBI pin. Did none of you learn anything from January 6th? Sean Hannity, coward. Mike Huckabee, coward. And we're going to watch a couple clips of other people who have been cowardly in this whole affair. But I got to tell you, man, Lauren Boebert has really won back my admiration. I was really ambivalent about Lauren Boebert. I got to be honest. I was like, meh. Like, I kind of like thought she was like a second coming of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm not like Marjorie Taylor Greene is like kooky and entertaining, but I'm not like actually the biggest fan. But Lauren Boebert, man, that woman has stuck to her guns. She told Sean Hannity in so many words basically to suck a dick last night, and it was glorious. And we're gonna watch a clip of that coming up. So we're gonna talk more about that. Other things I want to talk about is Ali Alexander is trending on Twitter for saying something crazy. Apparently about Marjorie Taylor Greene. What could possibly go wrong there? We're going to listen to what Ali Alexander said. And then I got a couple things I want to read to you. I want to read a couple articles from Actively Unwoke that I put up. We're going to read this one, why Congresswoman Cori Bush called fellow Black Congressman Byron Donalds. I keep calling him Byron Daniels in my head, so if I mess up his name, I apologize. But Byron Donalds, a white supremacist. Why would Cori Bush, who alleges that she is fighting to end racism, which of course we know she isn't, why would Cori Bush be calling Byron Donalds a white supremacist when Byron Donalds is very, very clearly and obviously not white? We're going to talk about that because there is a reason behind it. I also want to read you the latest article in my Woke Mind series, which is about what the woke left fears more than anything else in this world. And we're going to talk about why and have a brief discussion on that. And then I know this is a lot, but I have to share this one with you. This is really interesting. They're finding that basically, so several months ago, I mean, maybe like 6 or 7 months ago, Gabrielle Clark called me. You guys know Gabrielle Clark. She was the mom that filed the first federal lawsuit against critical race theory in schools in the country. She's done amazing work helping parents to basically deprogram their kids when they've been brought into gender ideology. Amazing, amazing woman. So about 6 months ago, Gabrielle Clark calls me and she's like, Carlin, the incels are the drag queens. And I was like, Gabs, what the fuck are you talking about? Incels are on the far right, drag queens are on the far left. Like, how could incels be the drag queens? And she said, no. This is horseshoe theory. This is the only way they can get sex and companionship. Because Gabrielle Clark's daughter got dragged into a lot of these communities. And so when Gabrielle Clark realized what was happening by looking at the information on her daughter's phone, she was like, holy F. And she saw who they were. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but like a portion of them, a portion of the people who are embracing radical gender ideology are incels from the far right. You can't make this up. And on this Substack, Pirate Wires, this is making the rounds on Twitter. They basically proved that Gabrielle Clark was correct, and no one listened to her when she was trying to bring this up, except for me. I listened to her. I was like, because we talked about it for a while, and slowly but surely, what she was saying slowly started to make sense. So we're going to read this article from piratewires.com, where they infiltrated an incel community that is literally talking about using transitioning to get sex and social acceptance. You can't make this stuff up, folks. This is real life. So those are the things we're going to talk about on the show today. Please mount that like button if you're here for it. We got a couple super chats coming in from Naruto. Imagine for a moment that conservatism is a bear. The woke pokes the bear, pokes the bear, pokes the bear. At some point, the bear is going to maul. Well, I do think conservatives are very angry in general, Naruto, but we'll see if that bear does maul. And then Naruto also says, my representative Don Bacon said they need to consider working with the Democrats. Oh God, another coward. Another coward exposed. I always knew Don Bacon was a coward. That's a shame. That's a shame. Skid Mark, welcome as a member of the channel. I do greatly appreciate it. Guys, if you want to support the work I'm doing, there are a lot of ways you can do that. You can head over to activelyunwoke.com/support. Although I'm getting some sort of weird error message on the site right now. I'm troubleshooting it. It says it's not secure. It is secure. A certificate just needs to be updated. The site is fine. No one's stealing nothing. You don't even have to put your credit card in on the site to support me. I'm just working through a little technical difficulty right now with the support. We're going to take care of it later. But anyway, if you want to support the work I'm doing, you can become a member on the channel. You can head over to activelyunwoke.com/support. The link is in the description below. Sign up on my local, sign up on my Patreon. But what I want to encourage everyone to do is I have a goal on my Substack. Now, this is an audacious goal. And if you're already a supporting member on another site, whether that be Locals or Patreon or YouTube, I'm not asking you to double dip or anything, but I'm really putting a lot of energy and resources into my Substack moving forward into 2023. My Substack, to be quite frank, is where I get the most views. It's also where I'm able to get the most in-depth information. We're going to be reading 2 articles from my Substack today that have just been published in the last couple of days. So if you want to help me out and support the work I'm doing, I have a goal that I want to get 100 new paying Substack subscribers this month. Okay? And that's going to help me continue to be able to keep all of the articles on my Substack for free. Now, I don't want to have to put stuff behind a paywall. I really don't. I want to make this information available to as many people as possible. But I need your help in order to be able to do that because I have to be able to justify putting time into this financially. So if you're enjoying articles like this one that we're going to read today about why Cori Bush is calling Byron Donalds a white supremacist, or like the Woke Mind series that I think is actually going to be really cool, I'm basically teaching you the psychology of the woke left bit by bit by bit, and we're going to break it down and we're going to read this article today. I would like to be able to keep all of this information freely available to the public. But in order to do that, I need people who believe in this content and find this content valuable to support it. All I'm asking is $5 a month, $50 a year if you're feeling saucy, and I would like to get 100 new paying subscribers on my Substack by the end of the month so that I can continue to keep everything for free. And if you're a regular viewer of my content and my channel and you appreciate the work I'm doing, it would really help me out, and you're going to help me keep it free for everyone who can't afford to sign up right now. Whose card is 125? It's just dummy data bot. Relax. It's dummy data. It's no card. There's no card. Relax. And Skidmark says, I can't believe they're on the 10th vote. I can. I can believe they're on the 10th vote. And it is glorious. It is fucking glorious. I hope this goes on for months. I hope they get absolutely nothing done. Now, don't get me wrong. I would like the Republicans to come along and elect a speaker at some point because I would like them to subpoena people. I would like them to be able to hold hearings on things. I'm not saying I want them to be completely unproductive or anything, but I think that this is the ass kicking that the Republican Party desperately needs to wake up to what their base wants. And I want them to stay strong. The people who are continuing to fight against this, I want them to stay strong. Did you guys notice that Matt Gaetz today nominated Trump? He nominated Trump for Speaker of the House? Oh my God. Can you imagine Joe Biden's next State of the Union and Donald Trump is behind him clapping? I mean, come on, you can't make this stuff up. But there's a couple clips that I want to play for you. And the first one comes from, Dan Crenshaw. I had such high hopes for Dan Crenshaw. I wanted... Oh no, why is this not working? Oh no, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show these to you. Hang on. Hang on, I gotta get it set up in another window, apparently. Can never do anything the first time. Jeez. Jeez Louise. Let's see if this works. Let's see. So you gonna let me do that? I think it will. All right, check this out. This is Dan Crenshaw talking about how everyone who disagrees with them is a narcissist.
This handful of members is very clearly looking for notoriety over principle. If you're a narcissist and you believe that your opinion is so much more important than everyone else's, then you'll keep going. And you'll threaten to tear down the team for the benefit of the Democrats, just because of your own sense of self-importance. That's exactly what's happening here.
No, that's not what's happening at all. This is not about ego. Okay, it might be a little bit about ego. Let's be honest. They're politicians. It's always a little bit about ego. Let's just, we can. But for Dan Crenshaw to honestly come out and say, everyone who disagrees with me is a narcissist, it's like, man, I am so effing sick of people calling everyone who disagrees with them a narcissist, or people blaming narcissism on every possible thing that they don't like. It is just so effing annoying. Like, if Kevin McCarthy cannot negotiate within his own caucus, then that's his fault, man. He is a politician. He is a professional politician. He should have known better. The fact of the matter is the reason that Kevin McCarthy is in the position that he is in is because Kevin McCarthy threatened people and said, if you don't vote for me, you're not going to get your committee assignments, like a spoiled effing child. Every single person is entitled to their votes. Lauren Boebert is entitled to her vote. Matt Gaetz is entitled to his vote. Andy Biggs is entitled to his vote. All the rest of them are too. That's the way it works. And to be quite frank, I like that they're putting up Byron Donalds. I like Byron Donalds. I think Byron Donalds is a good guy. I think he'd do a good job. And I think the symbolism of having the first Black Speaker of the House be a Republican, come on, you raging idiots. This is where Republicans fail every single time. It's like they are handed a monumental victory on a silver platter. Just elect Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds is young. Byron Donalds is handsome. Byron Donalds is a Black effing Republican that would probably make a great Speaker of the House. But even if he didn't, the symbolism of Byron Donalds being a young, handsome, Black Republican Speaker of the House, are you kidding me? They should be thanking God that the Lord has delivered them Byron Donalds on a silver platter at this moment in time. But what are they doing? No, they're fighting for Kevin McCarthy. It's like, can you make one smart decision, Republicans? Just one. I'm just asking for one. That's it. But no. And no Keno reviews. I don't want to be Speaker of the House. I don't want that job. But man, Lauren Boebert, let me pull up this clip of Lauren real quick, because Lauren is on fire over this. It is so great. Hang on. Check this out. This is Lauren Boebert on Sean Hannity. It is this is a sight to behold. Okay, so my summation from this, and I feel like this is pretty accurate, and Skid Marks agrees with me too, totally on Byron Donalds for Speaker. Yes, absolutely. But so my summation of this is Sean Hannity was basically like, woman, why won't you listen to us? And Lauren Boebert basically told him to suck a dick. And it's just so good. It's so good. Listen to this woman on fire.
Motion to adjourn. Tonight's motion to adjourn, that Kevin McCarthy and his supporters are already getting voter fatigue. And
I asked you a simple question, Congresswoman. I feel like I'm getting a liberal.
I'm not going to support Kevin McCarthy, Sean.
Okay, so even if you only have 30 votes,
Kevin McCarthy,
you will not abide by what you told President Trump to abide by.
I don't believe I will be.
I feel like we've made progress.
Look, I love President Trump. You're not going to turn me on him. You're not going to pit him against me.
Not trying to pit him
I love
against you.
President
That's what you
Trump,
said to him.
and I am standing. I have
You're the
seen
one
the
that said
broken
it to him.
trust. I have seen the lack of accountability. Well, we are getting phone calls saying that we need to stop this. Kevin does
All
not
right.
have the votes for
I got
speaker.
it.
Period.
Thank
we need
you.
to find a consensus candidate, get this right, and get our country back on track. Thanks so much, Sean. Tonight's
I love it because you can tell that they both basically hate each other. And Laura Boebert can barely even hide how annoyed she is at this entire situation, and just like with that. I love it. I love it. But I love that she stuck to her guns. And I love that she didn't let Sean Hannity push her around, because Sean Hannity's being a hypocritical douche, if we're honest about it. Sean Hannity's like, Lauren, you don't have the votes either. That's not the point, Sean. It's not the point. And Sean Hannity knows that. And conservatives play this game all the time. This is why I don't mess around with them anymore. PragerU plays this game. Conservative commentators play this game. They play this game all the time, where they damn well know what the point is. And then they put on their maximum power blinder sunglasses so that they literally can't see the point that's right in front of them. And they want to pretend that they are the ones with the moral high ground, that they are the ones with the ethical high ground, when it is no such thing. They're just hypocrites, nothing more. Kino reviews. So about that bet, sorry, Phil, I missed this the first time, but I do appreciate it. Thank you for that. But man, Lauren Boebert, fire. Matt Gaetz, fire. I love the both of them. I may not be on their team politically necessarily, but I think this is great TV. You can't beat this for anything. So guys, let me know in the chat. Do you want to see this continue? How are you feeling about this whole thing? Because I could watch this go on for months and months and months and months and months and be perfectly happy every single day. I really want to know if Kevin McCarthy is going to drop out at some point. I feel like he's going to keep going. Like he's like, I mean, Joshua predicted this on Tuesday that he thought Kevin McCarthy was going to make it. Maybe he will. But man, I really want to see them. I want to see them pull this off. I really do. Brian, I'm glad you're here. I hear congratulations are in order. I know congratulations have been in order for like maybe a couple weeks now, but I haven't seen you in the chat lately. And I was told that congratulations are in order, Brian. So welcome back. I'm glad I got to see you and wish you guys well. But another thing happened today in that Marjorie Taylor Greene is backing Kevin McCarthy, which of course tells us, sadly, that we cannot trust Marjorie Taylor Greene in any way. And again, listen, she's entertaining, she's kooky, she's boisterous. I'm not going to turn it down. It's good TV. It gives me the value that politics tends to give me. But I got to tell you, Ali Alexander seems pretty pissed at Marjorie Taylor Greene. And right before I went live, not too long before it, he started trending on Twitter after saying that he was going to release evidence that Marjorie Taylor Greene was convicted of a crime. Hang on. Did he just vote for him? Did that just happen? When did that happen? Don't make shit up. Don't come in here and give me vague information. Did he just vote for him? Or is that old? It's another thing, people. You always got to check people in the chat when they're trying to convince you of something when they don't actually have, real information. All right, but let's listen to what Ali Alexander is saying. Okay, so he voted for him for the first two votes, so it doesn't count is what you're saying. Got it. Thank you for being inauthentic like all conservatives are. I appreciate it. You can always tell. You can always tell when conservatives are trying to trick you into something, or conservatives are not telling the whole truth about what's happening, or they're obfuscating information because they do it like all the fucking time. No offense, conservatives, but you do it all the fucking time. So you got to check that shit. Never believe anything anyone tells you on the internet, because they're probably trying to sell you something. And that includes me, by the way. Fact check me on everything. Look into everything. This is why I provide more receipts than anyone else on the internet when I tell you something is going on, because I want you to be able to look at the information for yourself and decide if I'm right or not. But anyway, I want to talk about Ali Alexander. I don't like Ali Alexander. I think my record is pretty effing clear on not liking Ali Alexander in any way. But he's so entertaining, man. You cannot discount the level of entertainment that this guy brings to the stage. And I want to hear what he had to say. So let's hear what is causing such a ruckus that Right Wing Watch tweeted this clip and said, Ali Alexander is threatening to release evidence that Marjorie Taylor Greene committed a crime that will get her expelled from Congress. I will not suffer this harlot. I will not be taught vows of loyalty and commitment from a whore. Possibly the best part about this clip is that Ali Alexander calls Marjorie Taylor Greene a whore repeatedly. Now, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't believe in judging people for their sex life, because the people who all and this is actually going to tell us a lot about Ali Alexander, I suspect, at some point, because the people who judge other people for their sex life, one of two things is true. Either they are the kinkiest mother effers on the planet, or they're not having sex at all and they're incels and they're jealous that other people actually have a sex life. Universally. Anyone you see on the internet that's like putting people through these purity tests, or like raking them over the coals for maybe they had an affair, or they did this, or they did that, or they're into things that you don't understand, or the people who do that are always universally either into really kinky shit, or they're incels themselves, and that's why they're so jealous, because they're wishing that they could be having sex like the people that they're making fun of. Anyway, that's a different discussion for a different day. Let's listen to what Ali Alexander had to say.
I will not suffer this harlot. I will not be taught vows and loyalty, commitment from a whore.
Clutch your
You have got
pearls.
me mistaken for some damn fool, and a fool Ali Alexander has never been called. In the coming days, I'm going to reveal that Marjorie Taylor Greene, in my summation and the summation of lawyers, committed a crime. That crime is going to be handed to the state of Georgia. And the state of Georgia will decide whether they adjudicate that crime or not. The House Ethics Committee and House Rules must expel Marjorie Taylor Greene when this evidence comes to light. Ho, go home. I am done with you. You are lukewarm. I am spitting you out of my mouth. You played me and no more.
Well, that was nice, wasn't it? That was nice.
Everyone will know about your drunken nights, because the consultants who have drunk with you will have to choose whether they fear me or whether they fear you. And they fear me, Marge.
Marge.
They fear me a lot more than they fear you.
Now, Ali Alexander, for as long as I've known who this asshole was, Ali Alexander has always been one of those people whose bark is, quite frankly, a lot worse than his bite. But I will say this for Ali Alexander. Ali Alexander is one of the people that the January 6th committee was coming after, and they didn't end up mentioning him at all in the final report. So Ali Alexander does know people. Ali Alexander absolutely has a metric ton of connections behind the scenes. I mean, he's working with Kanye West. He's connected with Alex Jones. He is connected with all of these like America First influencer circles. I'm not suggesting he doesn't have connections. I am suggesting that he overstates the impact of his connections quite frequently. However, I want to know what Marjorie Taylor Greene did on a drunken night with consultants. I mean, she did get divorced recently. Now, is that going to rise up to the level of a crime? I tend to doubt it very strongly. And Skidmark says, not that it amuses me, but is that not slander? Oh, I mean, yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene could probably sue Ali Alexander for defamation if there's no there. The question is, does she want to? Because that's a whole other rigmarole. Like, I can sue like 15 people on the internet at least for defamation, and I would win. But there's a whole other set of considerations that are at play there. Skidmark also says, LOL, okay, maybe that's not slander. Well, if Ali Alexander comes out and accuses Marjorie Taylor Greene of crimes that he can't prove that she committed, it could be. Kino Reviews, Ali is probably a former lover of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh, I doubt that strongly. I think he's gay. I could be wrong about that. I don't know that for sure, but I think he's, yeah, they're all fucking gay. All of them. All of them. All of that, whether they admit it or not. So I'm going to just be keeping an eye on this. And I got to tell you guys, Telegram is one of my low-key, like, guilty pleasures. The bowels of Telegram. And Ali Alexander has a Telegram group that, like, I check in on every once in a while. He has been ragging on Marjorie Taylor Greene for, like, a while now. So this is not new. Ali Alexander, this is not dislike. This is not annoyance. Ali Alexander hates Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so let's just keep an eye on what's going on here, because I think that that's going to be a fun little story for us. All right, guys, please mount that like button if you have not already. Please consider subscribing to the channel. I do go live at 5 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and coming tomorrow, Friday, on my main channel, because we're bringing happy hour back to my main channel tomorrow. And on Saturdays, I go live around 6 p.m. for Socialism Saturday. We do it a little bit later in the day because it's my weekend too. I got stuff to do. But I want to, oh, isn't he nice? Isn't he nice? Isn't he nice? Goodbye, little troll. You guys know the rules of my chat. We have 2 rules. Don't be a dick. No whining. If you are a dick and or you whine, you aren't going to be in my chat very long. The choice is yours. All right, guys, I want to get into the meat of what I wanted to talk about today, which is that I wanted to talk about why Cori Bush called Byron Daniels a white supremacist, or Donalds. I keep saying Daniels in my head. Why Cori Bush called Byron Donalds a white supremacist. Because there is actually a reason behind this. She's not just flinging out the term racism willy-nilly. And I want people to understand why she's doing this. So this is on my Substack, which you can find at carlin.substack.com. And if you'd like to become a supporter of my Substack while you're there, I would like to get 100 new monthly supporters this month to keep all of the articles on the Substack free. I get thousands and thousands and thousands of views a day on this Substack, so I feel like I'm being pretty reasonable in my goal. And I'm really going to be publishing very frequently to explain this stuff in as simplest terms as I possibly can. And we're going to see what's what. It looks like 86% of you do not believe that Ali Alexander has the evidence he claims to have. I tend to think that's probably correct, but I guess we'll see. Let's read this article. Why Black Congresswoman Cori Bush called her fellow Black Congressman Byron Donalds a white supremacist. How can a Black man be a white supremacist? And you'll see Byron Donalds there. You can't confuse him with white at all. I don't know about you, but I'm loving the showdown in the House of Representatives over who will be the next speaker, and watching Kevin McCarthy get spanked down over and over and over and over and over again. No matter which side of the aisle you're on, this is just great TV. Brooklyn Way says dialectical inversion. Yes, that's exactly right. But we can't have a fight on national TV without there being a woke virtue signaler too. And yesterday, Cori Bush gave us this perfect example. She literally called Byron Donalds, who commits the crime of being a Republican while Black, a white supremacist. And you can see the tweet here that Cori sent out yesterday. For what it's worth, Byron Donalds is not a historic candidate for speaker. He is a prop. Despite being Black, he supports a policy agenda intent on upholding and perpetuating white supremacy. His name being in the mix is not progress. It's pathetic. Now, you would think that people who claim to care about racism would be pretty excited at the progress in the Republican Party, being that the base of the Republican Party now seems to be pretty excited about a young Black congressman being nominated for Speaker of the House to replace an old white man who has been there forever and ever and ever. You would think that would be a good thing for them, but no, because remember, the woke left does not care about solving racism. Racism is their god. Racism is the thing they worship more than anything else. If you took racism away from the woke left, they would have nothing left. So no, they are not interested in solving racism. No, there was no way in this universe that Cori Bush or AOC or Ayanna Pressley or Ilhan Omar or any other members of the squad were ever going to be satisfied that Byron Donalds was a young black man as a Republican nominated for Speaker of the House, because they want to create a world with more racism, not with less. How can it be that a black man is a white supremacist just because of his political leanings? Because, as we've discussed, when the woke say whiteness, they don't mean skin color. Whiteness is a code word for capitalism. You see, the far left believes that racism was created when the first black slaves came to America in 1619, even though that is not factually correct. They came in the 1500s and they came to Florida, but that's a different thing for a different day. This is when systemic racism began. They believe that white people who prior to this hadn't thought of themselves as white because they thought of themselves as French or English or German or Italian, or actually Italian, not so much white, but they do call Italians white people of color. Again, different topic for a different day. But the point is that the woke left believe that white people didn't consider themselves to be white until they were in America. Because prior to being in America, they were identifying themselves based on their ethnicity. But when they came to America and they brought black slaves to America, which the woke left say happened in 1619, but didn't happen earlier than that, but we're just working off of their brain for right now. They say that when white people brought black slaves to America in 1619, they then started calling themselves white as a way to differentiate themselves from black. Okay? So that's when the term whiteness was invented. They believed that white people who hadn't thought of themselves as white prioritized building structures that would support white people and only white people. And we still live with those structures today. And by the way, there is this is one of those things with the woke left that there is some truth to that. There is truth that the way our country developed started with structures and policies that were, well, racist. They were. And we need to acknowledge that. And then we built things on top of those. And then we built more things on top of those. And then we built more things on top of those. The problem is that it is not a reasonable solution for us to rip down everything we've built in the last 300 effing years and start over again. That's not a reasonable solution. The United States is a more perfect union. What that means is that we will never achieve perfection. The only thing that we can strive for is to become a more perfect union, to make progress bit by bit. You can't rip down the entire system and start again. It's just not going to work. But that's what they want. That's what they say is necessary to get rid of systemic racism. Even though many of the policies that were implemented have now been reversed, or there have been new policies on top of them that make them ineffectual, things like that. Today, the woke argue that because black slaves were considered private property back in the day, that capitalism was the real evil behind slavery. That is why you'll find so many on the far left say they are in favor of abolishing whiteness and capitalism in the same sentence. They view these terms as interchangeable. And here's an example from a teacher trainer that I wrote about on my Substack in the Cambridge, Massachusetts school system. She did a webinar in which she literally said, you can see it on the screen, being an abolitionist is anti-capitalism because there's a connection between capitalism and slavery. And honestly, to me, that's whiteness. And we have to eradicate whiteness and abolish whiteness as well. This woman, Dina Simmons, who got paid $32,000 to spend 2 days training the administrators in the Cambridge, Massachusetts public schools. Yes, she did. We have a FOIA request for that. She is literally saying in the same breath, she wants to abolish whiteness and she wants to abolish capitalism because the woke left view those as interchangeable. They view them as the same thing. So you're not going to be able to go into a dictionary and look up the term whiteness and see capitalism next to it. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is about how they use the term in everyday language. What is the common understanding that they have of the term? And I promise you, I have watched thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of these people talking about this stuff and training other people on this stuff. When they use the term whiteness, they are using it interchangeably with the term capitalism. And oftentimes they'll use both in the same sentence, referring to the same thing. That's what they mean. And if you want to know more about that, you can head over to this article. And I've got a link to another article I did about how the 1619 Project itself harkens back to the Communist Manifesto. That's another article you can read on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. Maybe I should get a little banner. Bing! There we go. Moving on. See, oh God, I knew I was going to put Daniels in one of them because I had Byron Daniels in my head all day and his last name is Donalds. I feel like I'm being so like, I don't know why I can't get his name. I'll update that later. What that means is that Byron Donalds is considered a white supremacist because he is a black man that believes in private property, individualism, and meritocracy. He believes in capitalism and therefore is upholding institutions the woke left believe are white supremacist in nature. His skin color is irrelevant. The only thing that is required to be a white supremacist is to embrace. Obviously, I was missing words there. I meant to finish a sentence. The only thing that's required is to embrace capitalism, is what the sentence was going to be finishes. I wrote this really quick before I started the stream because I wanted to get it up. I apologize for leaving a sentence just hanging there. I'll fix it later. This isn't the first time we've seen something like this. The media has been trying to advance the idea of multiracial whiteness since January 6th happened, with the latest effort just a few days ago by the Los Angeles Times. The Los Angeles Times, two or 3 days ago, printed this column. White supremacy comes in all colors. 2023 will make it impossible to ignore, with a giant picture of Kanye West. Now, Kanye West might not be your favorite person in the world. I can certainly understand why that might be. I have issues with Kanye West myself. I think he needs to get on medication. I think he's manic depressive. But he's not a white supremacist. I'm sorry, Kanye West is not a white supremacist. To say otherwise is absurd. And the same person that wrote this article wrote this one. Remember this one from back in the day? Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy. You've been warned. It seems that every black Republican, every single one, is a white supremacist. Is that a coincidence that every single Republican who happens to have a darker skin tone than mine, and that includes the Latinx ones as well, every single one of them is considered to be a white supremacist? I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Then we can even go back to right after January 6th. We got it because this crap started after January 6th. We got this article from NPR. And if you go to the Substack, you can link into all these articles and read them for yourself. Understanding multiracial whiteness and Trump supporters. Multiracial whiteness. The term was originally coined in the Washington Post right after January 6th. To understand Trump's support, we must think in terms of multiracial whiteness. So this is not a new idea, guys. They have been pushing this into the mainstream for 2 solid years. And they probably did before that too. I just haven't found. I mean, if you find stuff from prior to January 6th, let me know. I would love to see it. But remember, the woke left was pissed off at what percent of the black vote they lost in the 2020 election. Remember, it's not like they lost a good percent of the black vote, which the Democratic Party considers theirs. Joe Biden got elected president because of white men. That is the truth. That is the truth. Joe Biden got elected president because of white men, because white men swung in his direction. Every other demographic swung towards Donald Trump, including the black vote, which the Democrats consider theirs above all else. And so that's why they started pushing this stuff out about multiracial whiteness. That's when they started doubling down on the fact that black people can be white supremacists too, because everyone who disagrees with me is a racist, just like Dan Crenshaw thinks everyone who disagrees with me is a narcissist. Cori Bush is calling Byron Donalds a white supremacist because Byron Donalds doesn't believe that the system is oppressing him. Byron Donalds believes in individualism. He believes in meritocracy. He believes in private property. He believes in capitalism. He believes the American dream is real. And that's why he must be smeared by the woke left. He is an inconvenient truth. So that is why Cori Bush called Byron Donalds a white supremacist. I hope that makes sense to everyone. Please mount that like button if it did. Lions fan, thank you for the super chat. For the record, I want Byron as speaker and I'm for Lauren and the rest, but if Byron does vote McCarthy in the end, I'm not going to hold that against him. Well, you seemed to hold it against him earlier when you threw it out as a talking point. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the money and I thank you for spending some time with me today. But if you support them, then you need to support them no matter what. Politics are politics are politics are politics. Things change. I'm not going to hold that against Byron Donalds. I want him to hold out. And at the end of the day, if they do end up caving, man, I'll be disappointed, but I'll also probably understand it. Got to move on at some point. But I think that they're making their point, and I want to see them keep it up for a little while. All right, guys, I got a couple more things I want to read. The next thing I want to read is the latest article in my series, The Woke Mind, which is a series that I'm doing specifically on my Substack. If you go to the Substack, which again is carlin.substack.com, you'll see it right up in the top, the Woke Mind series. Only got a couple things in it so far because we just started it. But I wanted to continue the point that I was making about the woke left being obsessed with power as one of the primary things they covet. And we're going to use that to talk about what they fear most. So let me put this article in the chat if you want to follow along. The woke left fears being out of control more than anything else. How the woke left are like narcissists and how they are different. It is a misnomer and a misunderstanding to call everyone on the woke left narcissists. I really wish conservatives would stop doing it. Saying everyone I disagree with has a mental illness is no different than saying everyone I disagree with is a racist. It's exactly the same. They are not mentally ill. The people who have taught you that they are mentally ill have done you a disservice and have lied to you, probably because they themselves are not the brightest crayons in the box and they didn't bother to look into it to really understand what was going on. So we need to start dispensing with this notion. Because if the woke left really is just a bunch of mentally ill people, guess what, guys? That means y'all are losing to a lot of mentally ill people. Does that feel good to you? Does it feel good to think, man, they're crazy, man, they're insane, and I'm getting my ass kicked by them anyway? They're not mentally ill. They're not. They just have different values, which I explained in the first piece of my series. Let's read. In the previous article in the series, we discussed how power is the thing the woke left covets more than anything else. That means that everything they do is done with the goal of attaining power over you, over me, and anyone else who might stand in their way. Always make the assumption that every single thing they say and do is only and exclusively about gaining power in some way. We'll talk about all the ways they do that in a future piece. When you look at it through this lens, it will change how you perceive their actions and your understanding of why they behave the way they do. Why did they change the dictionary definition of racism? To gain power by controlling the language. Why are they teaching third graders critical race theory? To gain power by destabilizing the system and creating more racial divisions. Why are they transing the kids in school? To gain power by making a generation permanently reliant on medicalization and sterilizing people before they can have biological children, because ultimately they do want to abolish the family, but that's way more than I wanted to talk about in this particular article. Why do they refuse to define what a woman is? To gain power by controlling the language. And as an aside, they really like that language one. Controlling the language gives them the power to control your thought. Controlling your thought is how they control your speech and your behaviors. Jenny's getting inky with it says, for anyone confused why white supremacy equals capitalism, it's because capitalism has been seen as being created by whites and therefore is a white system, hence systemic racism. Well, it's a little bit different than that, but basically true. Basically true. But it is a little bit different than that. Capitalism existed before white people existed. Remember, back to the first article, they believe that white people was created and racism was created in 1619. Capitalism existed before that. So close and a good overview explanation if you need an introduction, but it's a little bit more complicated. But I appreciate the super chat, Jenny. Thank you. Their obsession with power tells us what they fear the most. If you ever want to know what someone fears most, you have to look at what they covet. Just look at the opposite of the thing that they covet, and you'll know what they fear. If a person covets money, they probably fear a lack of security or stability, because that's what most people are buying with money, is security and stability. If a person covets love, they probably fear being alone. If a person covets attention, they probably fear social ostracization. If a person covets being the smartest person in the room, they probably fear being wrong, especially in public. And if a person covets power, that means they deeply fear being out of control. The woke left fear being taken out of control more than almost anything else. Authoritarians are authoritarians because they have a primal need to control everyone and everything around them. Many people call the woke left narcissistic. When they do, it's probably this attribute that they are identifying, the need to be in control. I want to be very careful to say that not every person on the far left has narcissistic personality disorder. The term narcissist is thrown around far too easily. I strongly believe the conservative right does themselves a massive disservice anytime they say liberalism is a mental disorder. It's dismissive and undermines the true reasons they are doing what they're doing. Many of them don't have the disorder, but that doesn't mean they don't have traits of the disorder. And I want to pause here and say, every single person listening right now has narcissistic traits. You do. I do. Everyone listening on every platform I'm streaming on does. Everyone on Twitter does. Everyone in the House of Representatives does. Of more than most people, they do. Everyone has traits of narcissism, guys. If we had no traits of narcissism, then we would never take care of ourselves. We wouldn't care about how we looked. We wouldn't care about how we present to the world. We wouldn't care about getting that promotion. We wouldn't care about getting that pay raise or getting that new car or getting that new house with the big kitchen that we can entertain in or any of those things. If we didn't have traits of narcissism, we wouldn't care about any of those things. We've got to stop demonizing these things. Just because you care about yourself and you want to put your ideas out into the world does not make you narcissistic. It makes you a human being. Speaking our truth, our value, is one of the core things. Expressing ourselves, putting our ideas out and saying what I believe matters and what I think matters and what I want to do matters. That's part of what makes us who we are. The more willing you are to speak your ideas into the world, the more self-esteem you have. If you are unwilling to express yourself because you're afraid, I don't want to be perceived as a narcissist, you're going to have lower self-esteem and self-confidence. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your work. There's nothing wrong with loving what you do. There's nothing wrong with wanting to show up in the world. Conservatives care more about appearance than almost any other people on the planet. Is that narcissistic? No, I think it's just what they care about. So I really want to make the distinction. Just because someone wants their ideas adopted, or even if someone is afraid of being taken out of control, that does not mean they have a personality disorder. It does not mean they're mentally ill. And if you treat a problem that doesn't exist, you're not going to be successful in winning because you're not treating the right thing. That's what people see when they call the woke left narcissists. They correctly identify that people on the woke left share this common trait with people who legitimately do have narcissistic personality disorder. They need to be in control at all times. People with narcissistic personality disorder are made through a combination of nature and nurture. In order to develop NPD, one must be born with specific genetic traits that make them susceptible to it, like if they had a narcissist as a parent. However, they must also experience a childhood in which they did not have their needs met. For example, their mother might deny them love, they may experience emotional or physical abuse, or perhaps they're homeless and didn't have their most basic shelter. Because they don't have their needs met during a time in their life when they rely on others to meet their needs, children need adults to help them in this regard. They develop a profound need to control their environment, and every person in it is a coping mechanism. People who have narcissistic personality disorder, guys, it's a sad thing. It doesn't make them an evil person. Sometimes they do evil things. They do. They really do. But it is a sad thing that they have the disorder in the first place. Because the reason they have the disorder is because they were not cared for when they were kids. When they needed to be cared for. They didn't have their basic needs met. People think that people become narcissists because they get too much praise. No, 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 no. They don't become narcissists because their parents fawn over them or they got a trophy every time. People, that's not it. You become a narcissist, a real one, when you don't have your basic needs met in childhood. And then in response to that, you develop this as a coping mechanism. They believe, many of them subconsciously, because this is not always a conscious thought, they believe that when they are in control, they can't be hurt because they were hurt in childhood. They experienced some sort of trauma by not having their needs met in childhood. And then they develop narcissistic personality disorder as a way to cope with that so it never happens again. This is fundamentally different than the woke left, which we're going to talk about in a second. Narcissists are obsessed with control, probably because they were raised by people who are also obsessed with control, because oftentimes their own parents are narcissists. And because they were taken out of control by those people during their formidable years. I think that meant formative years. I meant formative years. Again, I'm not the best copy editor in the world. They cope with this by making sure it never happens again. I don't know if I believe anyone claiming to be a narcissist that says they're in recovery. I don't know if I believe that. I don't think narcissists can change, for the most part. They don't want to change. They think they're great just the way they are. The woke left is just as afraid of losing control as a narcissist is, but it's for different reasons. It's not because they're coping with childhood trauma, for most of them. Some of them are, but not all, or not even a large percent, I don't think. It's because they were never taught self-ownership or self-empowerment in the first place. The irony is that while many people call people on the woke left narcissists, I would argue that they are not narcissistic enough. There are traits of narcissism that can be healthy and productive when channeled properly. A belief in self is one of those traits. Narcissists believe that they are the best in the room at what they do, and they'll hang on to that perception even if they're mediocre. How others perceive them means nothing. They are obviously wrong and not able to understand the narcissist's talent because they themselves are mediocre. That's how the narcissist sees it. And oftentimes, it is this belief in self and air of confidence that propels them to real-world success. A lot of CEOs are CEOs because they are narcissists. Same with politicians, same with presidents. Their belief in self is the thing that drives them to the very highest levels of their career. Donald Trump, 100% a narcissist. The reason that Donald Trump became president is because he believed he could, and because the narcissism would not allow him to take in any information from anyone who said he couldn't. He couldn't see it. Or if he could see it, he was like, those people are just stupid, or those people are dumb, or they don't know what they're talking about. Donald Trump, absolutely a narcissist. I know people don't like me to say this, but it's the truth. He would not have become president had he not been a narcissist. He wouldn't have gotten as successful as he did if he wasn't a narcissist. This is the way this stuff works. That's not to say, and again, I don't think that narcissists are like bad people. I'm not making a value judgment. I'm not saying Donald Trump is an evil narcissist. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Donald Trump didn't have the best of relationships with his mother. That's documented. And because of that, he didn't have some of his needs met in childhood. And by the way, Donald Trump's parents are probably have some stuff going on as well. And because of all those things, he developed the disorder that propelled him to the success that he has. It is important to understand this. A real narcissist doesn't look towards mommy government to take care of them. They probably had to take care of themselves when they were a kid, and so they learned how to do it. They will cheat and steal to meet their goals if they have to. Why would they need the state to provide for them? They probably view every government bureaucrat as grossly incompetent. At most, they view the mechanisms of government as a way to give them more power, more wealth, more status. Does that sound like any politician you know? Probably all of them. The woke left are different. They believe that they can only live their best life if mommy government gives it to them. They want to be taken care of. All of their policies are designed to make people reliant on the state to live. People only believe in collectivism when they reject individualism and meritocracy. One rejects individualism and meritocracy when one doesn't have the self-worth to believe they can succeed on their own. And because they don't believe they can succeed on their own, that means they don't believe others can either. They project their insecurities onto people because identifying it in themselves would cut at the core of their being. And even worse than that, they project their insecurities onto others in the most demeaning ways. Have you ever noticed how many liberal white women truly believe no black people can succeed on their own without the help and aid of liberal white women? That sounds kind of racist, doesn't it? The woke left needs to believe they are in control over people because they struggle to control themselves. Why are so many of them extremely overweight? They struggle to control themselves. Why do so many of them look like they're on drugs? They struggle to control themselves. Why do so many of them burst into an angry rage over a tweet they don't like? I think you know the answer to that. They are deeply insecure people, lacking in self-worth and self-ownership, but they don't want to acknowledge it in themselves. And so they project those things onto other people and then swoop in as the superhero in order to save them with their pride flags and their BLM fists and their puberty blockers given out like candy to toddlers. Practically speaking, hanging on to control allows them to achieve their goal of ushering in a mommy government that will take care of all of us, in the image of Marx. Without power, they can't do what's necessary for their cultural revolution, so it is beneficial on a highly practical level. But what I want you to understand is that there are deeper reasons they do those things. They need to exert authoritarian control over others because they do not exert it over themselves. So, what does that mean? If your enemies fear being taken out of control, that means that's one of the weapons you use against them. Find ways to make them feel as though they are out of control. It's not so much about legitimate power, such as becoming the CEO of a company or getting elected to a school board, although those will work too. I'm talking about something much more crafty. Mind games. Get in their head, and you win. If a person believes they have been taken out of control, believe being the operative word, they will make mistakes that you can exploit in order to beat them. How do you take them out of control? Well, the next series in the article will teach you just that. So guys, if you enjoyed this article, this is part of my Woke Mind series. And if you want to help me keep these articles free for everyone, because I would really love to be able to do that, then I would ask for your support by signing up for a subscription, a monthly or annual paid subscription on my Substack, which is carlin.substack.com. And you can go to carlin.substack.com/subscribe. And I have a goal. I want to get 100 new paid monthly subscribers this month so that I can continue to keep all of these articles for free. So if you value the work I'm doing, if you value the analysis that I'm giving you, if it's helping you to understand the situation so you can approach it a little bit differently, I will guide you through this. I got a whole series of these articles planned. Please help me out. $5 a month, less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. In fact, Starbucks coffee is like $10 now. It's like Starbucks has gone crazy. And that really helps me out. And that'll keep it free for everyone. And I really do appreciate it. Savrit says, we project our current boundaries of perception in real time into the world and onto others. This is a placebo racism effect infecting the public. That's exactly right. Every flaw that we see in other people, it exists in ourselves. People don't understand this. Every flaw that you see in someone else, that's something that exists in you. You project your insecurities onto other people. The woke left do not have control over themselves. They know they don't have control over themselves. They don't believe in themselves. They never learned resiliency. They never learned self-empowerment. That's why they're looking for everyone else and their mother to do things for them. It's why they complain all the time when they aren't promoted for no good reason. They don't have control over themselves, and so they assume that no one else has control over themselves, which is why they want as much power as possible so that they can control everything and get things handed to them and get everything they need from mommy and daddy government because they can't go out and get it on their own. That's what they believe. And so they think everyone else needs that too. All right, guys, I have one more thing I want to read for today. And please mount that like button if you're enjoying the stream so far. This is from a website called Pirate Wires. And the reason that I want to read this is my friend Gabrielle Clark told me this was happening months ago, and she was trying to sound the alarm bell on this, and no one effing listened to her. My friend Gabs had a daughter that was socially transitioned in school to think that she was a boy. And, Gabs took her through a whole parenting program. You can actually find the workshop that Gabs used on my website. It's activelyunwoke.com. It's under the on-demand training section. And it's a workshop called Affirming Reality, where she talks about the parenting program she used to basically basically wean her daughter off of social media, because her daughter got into all of these different social media groups in which she was encountering these trans people. And no shade on trans people, by the way. I don't care if you're trans. I don't think what we're talking about today applies to normal trans people. But you're going to see these are not normal trans people. These are incels that are literally transitioning their gender because they think it's the only way they can get sex. So I have no issue with trans people. I don't care if you're trans. Live your best life, man. It ain't none of my business. But this is something that when Gabrielle Clark found out all the groups that her daughter was in online, she saw this. She saw these people trying to get connected to her daughter. And she called me one night. She's like, Carla, I'm going to tell you what's really going on. And I remember I was sitting downstairs in my the dining room, which is basically my husband's office. We don't really use it as a dining room. It's my husband's office. And I was just like sitting there reeling, going, holy F, the far left and the far right are the same. But we didn't have a way to prove it. And Gabs was trying to tell people this was happening. She was trying to say the incels are in gender ideology. They're transing because they think it's going to get them sex. And she was trying to tell people about this, and no one listened to her. Well, guess what happened? That's why you don't dismiss people like me and Gabs, because we always come with receipts. This is on piratewires.com. I'll put the link in the chat. Transmaxing. The incel to trans woman pipeline. Why a community of depressed young men with nothing to lose is convinced the only way out of their misery is gender transition. There is a large and growing subset of men are literally incapable of getting laid is a seemingly benign issue that actually impacts our entire country, intersecting every controversial topic from technology addiction and toxic masculinity to the population crash. But more recently, as the involuntarily celibate or incel community works its way through the funhouse mirror of our 21st century internet, it has strangely and perhaps inevitably intersected with the trans community. Long story short, what if you hated women so much that you decided to become one? Today, in a whirlwind of incel men becoming girls and dating each other, androgen treatments as a defense against a man's own sex drive and the power of women, and the use of sissy hypnoporn to force men into womanhood, Sanjaya Friedman guest for Pirate Wires with a wild foray into America's strangest and most wondrous new creature, the incel trans maxer. Whatever. Imagine you're a depressed young man in a developed country. Maybe you work long hours for low pay. Maybe you're unemployed. When you were in school, you didn't fit in with other boys. Girls acted like you weren't even there. You spend most of your free time playing video games and shitposting with online friends you've never met in real life. You rarely have sex without paying for it. You consider suicide regularly. To the left, you're a threat. A woman-hating incel with latent violent tendencies. To the right, you're a degenerate, a porn-addicted, weak virgin who struggles to impose himself on the world. Where do you go from here? Do you ingratiate yourself with SJWs or with the Chads? Do you succumb to the temptation to commit suicide? For some men, the solution to the despair of living as an isolated, unhappy male is straightforward. Become a woman. They call themselves transmaxers. They believe gender transition can be an effective tool for escaping the misery of involuntary celibacy, social isolation, and professional mediocrity. More broadly, they see transition as a potentially revolutionary response to a world where the combination of industrialization and biomedical technologies, such as in vitro fertilization and sperm donation, have eroded the financial and reproductive opportunities previously available to most men. Like many revolutionary movements, they operate semi-clandestinely, preferring Discord to Twitter and YouTube, and express their beliefs primarily in the form of manifestos. The latest, a 73-page document published in April 2022, includes chapters like how society benefit from people transitioning, incels become less likely to develop or maintain problematic political beliefs as they become violent. They will instead benefit from accelerated hypergamy and genocism. How to transition, a 13-step process that involves, among other things, watching anime and sissy hypno porn to induce dysphoria. They're actually trying to induce gender dysphoria. Banking your sperm and beginning hormone replacement therapy. Trans women have way better sex than Chad. On estrogen, you will experience multiple full body orgasms. I don't know about that, but all right. And you can see here the virgin antidepressant user compared to Stacy transitioner. They're glorifying this stuff. This, by the way, is all in this article. You can go and read this full thing, which is crazy in and of itself. Look at this. The 1,200 member transmaxing Discord includes men who have transitioned, those who are merely interested, and everything in between. Some men in the Discord are there simply because they have a kink for forced feminization, a form of fantasy roleplay in which a man is forced to assume a stereotypically feminine appearance and sexual role. But Vinto Logi, an admin of the Discord and the compiler of the Transmax Manifesto, told me that most active members seem to be on hormone replacement therapy. And though he insists that most of the incel community are against transmaxing and incels do not participate in our spaces much, the manifestos and Discord chats suggest that many transmaxers previously identified as incels. The Transmaxing Success Stories chapter in the manifesto attests to this experience of an incel to transmaxer pipeline. 4 years ago, I was an edgy, right-wing, anti-SJW teen who was borderline MGTOW. Now I'm a gay cat girl dating an anarchist trans girl. I was more an incel-ish transphobe than anything. Looking back at my past kind of disgusts me, but now I'm good with myself. Honestly makes me wonder how many incels are in trans denial. I used to run in neckbeard 4chan incel circles. Now my name is Rebecca, and I'm a girl. When did that happen? What do you guys think of this so far? I mean, again, I knew about this months ago. This was identified to me months ago. And by the way, some of your conservative influencers knew about this too and didn't say anything. This is one of the reasons I get so pissed at conservative influencers who are feckless. Because me and Gabrielle Clark are not the only people that knew about this. I didn't have the proof of it, so I didn't say anything about it because I didn't have anything to back it up. I had heard about it from Gabrielle Clark and I kind of started to look into it. But there were absolutely big-time conservative influencers who knew about this. And I know they knew about it because I fucking told them about it. And they did nothing with it because they're feckless. Lions Fan 96 says, want to say I appreciate you holding conservatives accountable, even me, and the content you put up is important, so keep it up. I do appreciate that, Lions fans. We may not always agree, but as long as you're respectful, then you are welcome to be here, and I do appreciate the support. Thank you for that. Mount the like button if you think this is some crazy stuff, guys. Here in the manifesto and elsewhere in the transmax spaces, one often finds a strange mix of irony and seriousness. The manifesto is equal parts sober advice about procuring and dosing estrogen and erotic descriptions of feminization. Savret says, the permanent slaves of consumption will not revolt against being a slave if they believe they are free or if they are honest beings. Blindness. Well, that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Thank you, Savrets. From the text. Your pants will be pulled down and soon you will feel a needle inside your muscle and soon the injection, it will be slowly absorbed into your body. At first, it was just pills given orally. Now it's injections, and at this point, hiding the breasts is very difficult. Where does the fetish end and the identity begin? It is often difficult to tell. Kat the Vat, a YouTuber and member of the Transmax Discord, suspects the manifesto's porn talk, and particularly fantasies about forced feminization, may serve as a practical purpose for would-be transmaxers. Some incels need to be, like, forced into pursuing transition because they have all of these mental constraints from people around them saying, you can't be a girl, you're a man, or you can't do this because of your penis, she told me. But as they transition, they're like, I don't need to read the porn part of the manifesto anymore. Let me just skip to the medicalization section. They are making these kids believe that they need to transition in order to get sex. This is fucked up. I've said this a million times, guys. If you have kids, keep them off the internet. I know they don't want to be kept off the internet. I know they're going to whine and cry and complain and throw fits and temper tantrums. I get it. I really do. But you've got to keep your kids off the internet. You've got to keep them off. Or at least get some way where they have a very limited amount of sites that they can visit. Keep them off Discord. There is no reason that teenagers need to be on Discord. There is no reason that teenagers need to be on Tumblr. There is no reason that they need to be on Reddit. There's no reason. They will survive. But I'll tell you, when I first started researching this stuff, I made a whole bunch of Reddit profiles, like, fake alias profiles, like whatever. And I'll tell you what, within 15 fucking minutes of signing up on Reddit, within 15 minutes, and I was posing as like a 15-year-old girl in this particular profile. Within 15 minutes, I had an adult messaging me pretending to be a child, and I knew it was an adult because of how they were talking. I was presenting myself as a vulnerable kid looking for more information on transitioning. Within minutes of signing up and putting that out there on Reddit in a couple of places, I had grown men in my DMs. That's real. Keep your kids off these sites. Don't say I didn't warn you. Multi-Drider, this is why I've been asking Joshua in the past if dating will be great again, because dating is messed up nowadays, but transitioning ain't the answer. This has nothing to do with dating. This is not about dating. This is not, don't equate the two. This is not dating. What incels are not dating. This all has to do with their internal perception of self. Mainstream progressive discourse around the nature of dysphoria and trans identities doesn't take kindly to the idea that porn could convince people to transition or that gender dysphoria could be induced. And I honestly question that too. I don't I can acknowledge that I think it's bad that they're trying to induce gender dysphoria while also saying, like, there's nothing wrong with being trans. I have no issue with trans people at all. Live your best life. I don't know that I believe that gender dysphoria can be quote unquote induced, but I think it's effed up that they're trying. Savret says this is social engineering to control reproduction. I think there's some there to that, Savret. I do. If for some men transition could be, as Cap put it, a route to de-incelization, or practically a way for two young incels to transition and date each other, I don't know why they need to transition to date each other. Why do they need to transition to date each other? Why can't they just date each other? Then what becomes of the World Professional Association for Transgender Health insistence that gender identity is a person's intrinsic sense of being a male, boy or man, or female, girl or woman, or an alternative gender, i.e., boy girl, girl boy, transgender, genderqueer, eunuch, etc. That trans people really just are the gender they claim to be underlines many core contemporary practices related to gender and prescribing puberty blockers to dysphoric children to declaring pronouns at the starts of meetings. There we have the incel remover. And no, Tristan says because they're attracted to women. No, they're having sex the way that men have sex with each other. And we know that because in this cartoon, it literally says, after taking dick for the first time. The equipment isn't changing. The penis is still there, still going into the orifice that men have. They could date each other and be just fine. The equipment's all the same. So this says, for the boy, it says submissive, virgin, skinny fat, unpopular with women, low test, short, girls hate them, quote unquote. And then they take dick for the first time. Still submissive, but no longer a virgin. Still skinny fat, popular with men. So again, popular with men. Low test, short, and guys love them. Nor is transmaxing necessarily amenable to a gender-critical account of transgender identities, at least if this account rests on the claim that transition is always a purely physical and psychological disaster for those who pursue it. The manifesto and Discord are full of personal narratives from people who claim to have radically improved their lives by taking hormones and undergoing feminization surgeries. As one transmaxer put it, transition was like going from watching a movie without colors and sound to watching a 4K movie with nice audio. I love how orgasms feel now when I'm a girl. I didn't think sex would be this good. Listen, man, I'll say this. If they're happier, then more power to them. I know people aren't going to like that I say that, but if this allows them to find happiness and satisfaction and fulfillment, then I guess who am I to judge? But I would say at the same time, if you're not trans, if you're legitimately not trans, you don't need to transition to find happiness and fulfillment. Part of the problem with incels is they're all hanging around each other and then they convince themselves that they're all incels and then they base their identity around being incels. If you want to have sex, if you want to get a girlfriend, stop hanging out with incels. I don't know how this is so hard. If you are proactively spending all your time hanging out with people on the basis that none of you think that you can get girls, stop hanging out with them and go hang out with other people. And I know they probably think like I can't make friends, no one likes me, I'm a nerd, I'm small, I'm all this stuff, and it's like, yo, I wish these kids knew. I loved boys like this in high school. I did. like people who consider like boys who consider themselves like incels. I love that sort of stuff in high school. Like, there are lots of women who like that stuff. Now, they might not be the Stacy type women. They might not be the fucking cheerleader. But to say that you can't have sex or you can't find a girlfriend, like, yes, you can. You just need to stop hanging out with people that are convincing you that you can't have sex or find a girlfriend. It's so, I mean, these are the things that they really should be teaching in school, man. Is like you surround yourself with people who are the people that you want to be, not the people that you don't want to be. And if you're surrounding yourselves with people that you don't want to be, if you're surrounding yourselves with like a toxic horde that just spends all day complaining and reeing on Twitter and complaining about everything, you're going to become toxic. You are the people that you associate with. For Tina, a 23-year-old German transmaxer who's been living as a woman for the past year, transition has been a solution to inceldom. After suffering a particularly hard romantic rejection on the heels of a series of rejections, she began to investigate certain patterns in the relationships between men and women. Tina came to two crucial conclusions. First, that men are replaceable from a reproductive standpoint, and second, 1 in 20 men are doomed to become incels because of the imbalance in the birth-sex ratio. On average, 105 boys born for every 100 girls. Though this ratio varies between countries. At this point, Tina felt that she herself was an incel and needed to remove the sexual power that women had over her by reducing her sex drive. When she learned that the anti-androgens, which suppress testosterone production, are often prescribed to trans women as a part of hormone replacement therapy, she decided to fake gender dysphoria in order to access the drug. The solution to feeling like you can't have sex is not to take drugs that will reduce your sex drive. That's not the solution. It's a really bad idea. I had never concerned myself with any kind of trans stuff before, Tina told me, referencing her mindset prior to her decision to transmax. But after going to several trans-specialized psychologists and telling her a completely fake dysphoria story, the general gist of it is, I've had gender dysphoria since I was 14 and I'm uncomfortable around women and I envy them for their femaleness and all kinds of shit. She received a diagnosis of gender dysphoria and prescriptions for anti-androgens and estrogen. It was uncomfortable dressing up like a woman for the first time, but now it's just normal, Tina says. I no longer consider myself an incel. The sex drive reduction worked. The dependency on women reduction worked. The self-worth crisis worked. And I even met some nice trans people along the way. She's been living full-time as a woman for the past year and recently traveled to Spain for a consultation with facial feminization surgeon. Since she has been clinically diagnosed with dysphoria, the German government will cover all costs associated with her transition. She estimates those will total around 80,000 whatever German money is. With the progressive attitude that gender identity is innate and has nothing to do with your sex, and the gender critical attitude is also that gender identity is innate but has everything to do with your sex, transmaxing suggests a range of factors might influence a person's decision to identify as trans or pursue transition. Gender dysphoria, induced or otherwise, sexual fetishes like autogynephilia, which the manifesto encourages would be transmaxers to develop. A certain lack of highly valued male physical and social traits, having a large penis, being tall or strong, being assertive, being financially successful. It takes a transhumanist approach to transition, suggesting, in Kat's words, that unhappy men ask themselves, is estrogen going to improve my life? are anti-androgens going to improve my life? It's not about, am I innately a boy or girl, or am I stuck in the wrong body? It's like, do I want to take estrogen and grow boobs? This is so effed up. I mean, I suppose it was inevitable, right? It's the inevitable outcome of glorifying all this. And like, I feel like, God, man, like, I feel such conflict about this because, again, I don't care if people are trans. If trans people want to go down this road and it's going to help them live a happier life, I personally have no problem with it. But this is like one of those unanticipated consequences of the trans activism movement, which they're going to be just fine with, by the way. Like, queer Marxism wants to get rid of gender anyway. Under queer Marxism, they basically want everyone to be non-binary, so they're going to think that this is great. But how many lives are going to be screwed up that don't need to be, just because these young men have convinced themselves that this is the only way they can have sex? I think it's a lot more than people think it is. Because, again, I heard about this probably 6 months ago because it was so prevalent. Interestingly, most transmax discourse has little to say about women transitioning to men. Vintology says that he would ban female to male transition completely for the good of society, citing 5 reasons why. And he says female to male transitions is detrimental for fertility rate in most cases. Female to male transitions makes the incel problem worse. They result in less beautiful females in society. They would have worse overall outcomes in the studies. They generally rely more on irreversible surgeries such as mastectomies, leaving permanent scars. Their effects from T are also much harder to reverse. I mean, this is so fucked up. The value system of these people is so effed up. It is literally all centered around, what do I need to do to have sex? What do I need to do to be around the most beautiful women that I could possibly be around? Who will love me and want to fuck me? It's their priorities are so screwed up. And it's because they're on the internet. I'm sorry. The internet is responsible for all of this. Keep your kids off of the internet. Allow them to grow up to be normal human beings. In some way, transmaxing seems like a possible, albeit extreme, response to what Mary Harrington, taking a note from N.S. Lyons, who in turn would take a note from Christopher Lasch, calls the class and culture war between physicals and virtuals. Oh, how interesting. That is, between those who work in the material world and those who work at a layer of abstraction apart from the physical world: finance, media, tech, academia. On Harrington's reading, deindustrialization has given the virtuals a decisive upper hand over the physicals, and in many cases, deprived physicals of opportunities for financial and social mobility. Similar analysis seems to underlie the transmaxing manifesto claim that most men are already obsolete. That's not true. Because their bodies are no longer needed for physical work, and males as a group do not have any major mental advantage over females. I mean, they don't have a mental advantage over females, but that doesn't make them obsolete. But while some consider the triumph of the virtual world over the material world a problem to solve, transmaxers see it as inevitable. How should we adapt to a society where the immaterial takes precedence over the concrete? The transmax response goes something like this: embrace the abstractions, drop down the pink vortex, and make yourself with the help of technology. As one Discord user put it, to a lonely, depressed new member considering whether to transmax, you might as well transition. There's nothing to lose. So again, if you want to read this article, it's at piratewires.com. It's crazy town. But this is real life, and this is one of the inevitable outcomes of what's been going on for years and years and years. And I'm glad someone did the research on it. I'm glad someone wrote about it, because I was going to work on, like, this was one of the projects I was going to do with the Unwoke Army, and now I can move on and do other things because I wanted to prove that this was happening, and I just hadn't gotten around to it yet. And so I'm really glad people did, and I'm glad this is actually being documented now, and I'm really glad they found this manual. I'm going to spend some time with this manual. This be crazy. Look at this. You can find the link to this on their Reddit site, or not the Reddit site, on the Substack. All right, guys, that's all I have for the stream for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back. Well, actually, remember, midnight movie. We're doing a midnight movie in honor of the 2nd anniversary of January 6th at midnight tonight. I will be streaming my original stream that I did after I got back from the Capitol on January 6th. So this isn't live. It's going to be streamed. There's going to be a chat. I will be in the chat. But what this is my original stream that I did right after I got back from the Capitol on January 6th itself. When I hadn't watched the news, I didn't know anything that was going on other than what I experienced in Washington, D.C. that day in person. And so let's kick off. Happy anniversary to January 6th. And the memes are going to be flying tomorrow. The shit posting is going to be great. We will be kicking it off at midnight on my channel to relive this. I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited to see what I said then. I don't remember. Is definitely an experience I will never forget, being there on January 6th. I will never forget that experience for my life. So join me for that midnight movie premiere. If you don't want to stay up, it's cool, man. It'll be on the channel when you wake up in the morning, and I will be back tomorrow on my main channel, and we'll do it on my second channel too. So don't worry if you're used to watching on Actively Unwoke. We'll do it there. We're doing happy hour tomorrow at 5 p.m. I'll announce what it is tomorrow. Take care, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Mount that like button on your way out the door, and we'll see you soon.